and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and today I'm going to talk to you about the Girl Sex 101 Book Club. In case you didn't know, the Girl Sex 101 Book Club is run by three of us booktubers, myself, Emma from Emma Tobias and Joss from Scribbles Reads. And every month we look for books that we think portray female sexuality in a positive and honest way. And that includes explorations of gender identity and the sexuality of anybody whose identity includes female in any way. Because for so long, in kind of the entire history of literature up until very recently, female sexuality has been ignored or repressed or demonized, and it's really great seeing the positive portrayals that are coming out in young adult novels today. So this month we looked at Far From You by Tess Sharpe. So I'm going to talk about this book, and then at the end of the video I'll announce what book we're reading next month. So the reason that we picked Far From You is because we'd heard it had really great bisexual representation. And other Em and I are both bisexual and have often said that we wish we had better portrayals of ourselves while we were growing up. So that's why I was really excited to read this one. And in terms of bi representation, this really didn't let me down at all. And what I wasn't expecting is to find that there were so many other issues explored in a really great way in here as well. It also explored grief and addiction and chronic pain and mental illness, and we had a lot to talk about this book. The main character is a girl called Sophie, who was in a very serious car accident when she was 14 and was left in a lot of pain and slowly becoming addicted to her pain medication. A few years later, her family and her best friend Mina realise that she has this addiction, and so they send her to stay with her aunt. Instead of going to rehab, they send her to stay with her aunt who will help her become clean. And this works, and she comes back home and she's been clean for months. But shortly after she returns, and this is where the book starts, she is out with her best friend Mina when they are approached by a terrifying masked figure who injures Sophie and shoots Mina. Sophie is found with drugs in her jacket pocket, which nobody will believe aren't hers, and so everybody thinks that she was out going to buy drugs and it was the drug dealer who killed Mina, making Sophie responsible. So then she's sent off to rehab, even though she keeps telling her family that she is completely clean. So that's kind of where this story starts, but it's actually told between multiple timelines. So we're constantly jumping around all the way back from when she's 14, is first having the accident. I think we even go further back at some points, all the way along various points along the timeline of the next few years and her relationship with her best friend Mina, up to present day where she's trying to solve the mystery of what really happened and why somebody planted drugs on her. So it's a super dramatic story, and it was definitely a page turner. I read this one pretty quickly because the chapters are quite short and it's constantly jumping around, which is kind of confusing, but it keeps you just there in the story the whole time. For a lot of the book, her relationship with Mina is pretty secondary. It doesn't really come out, and in fact we see more of the relationship between Sophie and Mina's brother Trevor. Trevor is in love with Sophie, and Sophie does clearly have feelings for Trevor, but there's something holding her back, which we'll find out is her feelings for Mina. And I don't think that's a spoiler. I knew going in that the main character was bisexual, and it hints on the blurb that her and Mina have a relationship, so I don't think that should be seen as a plot twist. It's a really important part of the story, really. So, to talk about what our book club is all about, the relationship between Sophie and Mina, I felt, was portrayed really beautifully. There's a lot of genuine passion in it. It's a very loving relationship and the romance was wonderful, but there's also genuine passion and lust, which is really great to see between two girls in a young adult book. I loved that Sophie uses the word bisexual about herself. That seems like a small point, but actually it's quite rare and quite frustrating in these books. They often dance around it a bit. Obviously, we don't need labels, and if somebody doesn't want to identify themselves as bisexual, but just explain that they like people of all genders, then that's fine. But just for some reason, it seems very rare that people do identify themselves as bisexual in the media, and so I think there's something very empowering about seeing that word actually written down in the book. I wasn't sure how I felt about Sophie's two main relationships being with a brother and a sister, the fact that it's Mina and Trevor. At first I thought that was a bit weird, and I guess it kind of is, but actually it did end up making sense to me in the context of this book, and the relationships that she had with both of them were different and were both very loving, but it's just that her true passion was for Mina, and Trevor being Mina's brother didn't make him a replacement for Mina. So in conclusion, I would definitely recommend this one as a great portrayal of bisexuality. However, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a great book overall, because I thought the plot, especially towards the end, kind of just fell off a bit. I was really engaged at the beginning, but then it just started to introduce too many side characters and I couldn't really keep track of them, so as the mystery started to come together, it involved important characters that I'd sort of lost track of, which rather kind of lost the oomph for me a bit. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5, I think, but in terms of shipping the main characters, Sophie and Mina forever, there are 5 out of 5. Okay, now moving on to next month. If you would like to read along with us in the month of November, we are going to be reading, seeing as it is non-fiction November, Girl Up by Laura Bates. Laura Bates is the founder of the Everyday Sexism Project, and this is her book that's aimed at young adults, introducing that kind of movement to them, and her aim is to empower teenage girls, which is a fantastic mission and speaks to everything that our book club is about. So I honestly can't think what could possibly be better for us to read this November than this book. So do let me know if you're going to be reading along with us in November. We would love to have you, the more the merrier. We do have a hashtag on Twitter, but I've actually forgotten what it is because I haven't been using Twitter for a few months. I think it's hashtag Girlsex101 Book Club, but I'll put it on the screen if it isn't, so you can join in the conversation with us that way. And do give this video a thumbs up if you want teenage girls to feel empowered as well. And of course, hit that subscribe button for new videos every Friday. See you next time!